Welcome to another episode of the Creating Magic Podcast. I'm Danny.
And I'm Paula, and today we are joined once again with our official Mouseverse correspondent, Angel.
Hey, everyone.
So what books are we covering?
We are covering the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. Part 1, yes, because we're only halfway through.
Well, it's 2 books, so it would make sense to split it halfway.
But these 2 books is like 4 books. I'm going to be honest. I saw them side by side at Target and almost had a heart attack.
So as a warning, if you are not reading it via the tandem read, this will contain spoilers.
Absolutely.
So
Which I got to say, I 100% prefer the tandem read. Like, I couldn't imagine reading them both separately. I mean, I guess I can imagine it, but I'd be like, oh, okay.
I spent like a whole book just angry because of reading it the publication way.
But you read it when it came out?
Which one was the first one that came out? Tower of Dawn or Empire of Storms?
I think it's Tower of Dawn.
I believe it's Tower of Dawn.
Tower of Dawn? Okay.
Empire
and Tower of Dawn?
We're all wrong. Empire Storms.
Oh, Empire of Storms. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because when I was first reading Tower of Dawn, I was like, man, this is such a snooze fest. You know what I mean? Like, because that Tower of Dawn follows Kale and Nezrin. And I'm like, in the first couple chapters, I'm like, oh my gosh.
But listen, here's my thing. And maybe it's because I'm doing the tandem read and I don't get it. People say like that book is boring. Like that guy, I can't remember his full name, but it's like Joel something. He's reading it now too. He's reading Tower of Dawn. And he's like, I don't understand how this is the book right before the last one. And I am barely keeping my eyes open, right? Like I can't even, but to me, like the little nuggets of information you're getting in that book, like not the information, but like the stuff that's happening is not boring. Yes, you have Kale being Kale, but
I didn't think it was boring. It's just, and you're not at this part, so you wouldn't understand.
Okay.
When Empire of Storms ended, I wanted that story and I was expecting to pick it up. And then all of a sudden I had a book that was just Kale. And I'm like, I want to know what's going on over here because you just put me on the edge of my seat through Empire of Storms. And then you stopped it for me to follow Kale's story when I'm like amped up from this last story. So I was just annoyed because I was like, kept flipping chapters going, it's got to be the next chapter. Because when I read them, I didn't realize they didn't switch perspective. And I was just like, it's got, and it wasn't.
Well, I'm glad we're doing the tandem read though, because I like it. I like it a lot. And like I said, Tower of Dawn does pick up because I do agree with you, Paula, that I do like the information that's happening, like when they're talking. And I think you mentioned this in your highlights. They mention something about the healer, and then they go back and like there it is, right? Like so they mention that place or something's happening, and then you're there. So I really like the switching back and forth. I think it's really really nice.
For sure that the tandem to me is like
a little
the way
easier.
To go. Yeah. And there's people who tried the tandem and couldn't do it because it was like too many POVs or whatever.
Oh, it's worth the effort.
I could get that. But
I think when that is, it's not necessarily about the story. It's about the inability or like the paying attention to keep going back and forth. Like if they like published a tandem version, those same people would have been like, oh, I'm fine with this.
But man, I really, really like the tandem read. And I think the people like Sabrina hasn't done it. She's like, oh man, I got to keep track. But I'm thinking, just plan ahead, put the stickies everywhere and you're good. You know what I mean? Like put a sticky here, like, hey, time to switch.
Just come with the book.
See? Exactly.
I love it.
And oh, by the way, Paula, I know I messaged you like plot twist. SJM was the one who published the tandem read thing. No, I don't. I was just kidding.
I was like, is that for real? Like, I want to know who figured that out. Because like,
whoever took the time,
I would never pick up on something like that. I would just be probably bitching the whole time, like Danny was. What the hell is this? But you're right. Yeah. I get it. Like if you read that book, and I don't know what happens at the end, but I get like it's obviously picking up, right? So if you do all that and then you have to go back in time.
Well, and that's what it was. Like you went back in time. You're now following other characters and a lot of Kale's story ends up being like, even from to this point, is like a little more political.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a man, whereas like you're kind of amped up from this. Things are happening, movement is happening, and now you're like in this land of like he's balancing like these families and these people and figuring out what's going on and where to move people and what's going on and healing himself. So it like the vibe is just very different. And so when you're up here and you're like, gotta get to the next one, and you get it, and you're like, what? And then you just keep switching chapters, and you're like, nope, nope.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because even in this one, I felt that like because of Tower of like the Empire Stories when Manon's fighting and everything like that and all that's happening,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great. And then oh, turns around, right? And then slashes her grandmother. And then oh, we're over here at Tower of Dawn all of a sudden, right? I'm like, what? No, like I don't want this story, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whoever figured out the whole tandem kind of order and sequencing, I hope your pillow is always cold.
Oh, that is the best. But yeah, I mean I've enjoyed it so far. You can obviously tell that things are about to, that they're starting to like stuff is starting to happen. Um like when I said last week that I was going to stop at that chat. Some people were like, "No, no, no, you have to keep going." And I was like, "No, I need Angel to catch up, so I can't keep going." Like I need Angel to catch up because then when we talk about it, I won't be able to like I still can't really.
So what's been the most surprising thing? Manon's good, right?
Manon, what do you mean Manon's good?
Well, I don't know. I think she's like she really does have a heart, doesn't she?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Wow, the whole thing with the grandmother and
Yeah,
the like the sister and her
right.
dad being like a rare frockin' prince. Like I was like, what? I cried during like the Astron
Right.
like execution thing. I was like, oh my God, I
When
can't believe this is
she
happening.
said take my body back to the wherever the mountain or the cabin or wherever. I was
Yeah.
like, she's really gonna do it. I thought she was really gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah. And then for one whole chapter, I thought the grandmother was dead, but she wasn't.
Next book, y'all are gonna cry.
Oh, I already know. I'm terrified. Absolutely
And
terrified of that book.
you know what else happens in the next book?
What?
The ending.
There are no more spoilers for Danny to share, so she can participate.
Yay! All right, so let me tell you one of my theories that got debunked in the first, I think it was like the first couple chapters. It's when um a lead is like walking through and she feels like somebody's watching her. I was like, oh, maybe it's Elena protecting her.
I really
And
thought you were
literally
gonna
the
go like,
next
oh,
chapter,
maybe it's Briaxis.
I was
Haven't
like,
seen him
maybe.
for a while.
I know. I was like, oh, maybe, like she's protecting her or whatever. And then like the next thing, it was Lorcan basically watching her or whatever.
Maybe
Uh,
Lorcan is Briaxis.
maybe. Listen, I'm terrified of Briaxis too. When
People
he
that have
comes back,
only read Throne of Glass are like, who the hell
who
is
the
Briaxis?
is Briaxis? Terrified.
Do we think
Uh,
a lead has a weird key? Oh, sorry, what's it? A word key?
a word key.
Does she have a word key or does she
I
have
think
the
whatever
word
that
lock?
is. Oh, I don't know. I thought it was. I think for sure it's like a word key. Like I think that thing is a key, but I don't know.
Okay, because
Danny knows.
after
She's
after Aelin
dancing.
met with what was it, Brannon at that place, and he says, "Oh, you need to find the lock too."
Yeah.
I thought like, oh, and then I heard your highlights because I had already caught up. I was like, oh, maybe it was the lock, but then I think the lock is supposed to be in Elway, right? And so it didn't make sense because I don't think Caltaine went to Elway, right? So like I was thinking like it could be the lock, it could be the key, but I'm leaning more toward it being a key than a lock. So But I hadn't picked up on that the first time, just in this book when she said that she had it or whatever, and she had to give it to Elaine. I mean, Elaine.
Not
Uh,
wrong book.
Aelin.
Aelin. No, she has to give it to
Selena.
Selena.
Selena. She has to give it to Selena. Yes.
Which now recently, I think in the last chapter, right? It was in the last chapter I read. He
Chapter 30. Yes.
basically, Lorcan tells Elide that finding Aelin will get her to Selena, but like without, like, basically they're on the same path, is what he told her. And I was like, okay, because I was like terrified. She's gonna be like right next to her and be like, sorry, hey girl, and she has a thing with her or whatever. Or when she was taking a bath, when she took off her clothes and she hid it and he could like hear that she was hiding something. I was like, dun dun dun.
But that's the thing. Will Lorcan even know what it is? I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Like, I hope he doesn't. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't even know the one he got from Selena is fake either. So
I know.
so like if he finds like, what is this thing you're hiding from me? Like maybe it's just like she could say it's some family trinket and he'd be like, okay.
But I think isn't it weird that he can't like feel it? I don't know.
Right, because even what's his name, like Aelin was scared that when Erwan punched her or something, he could have felt it if he had touched it or something
Yeah.
with his magic. I don't know. Oh, that's the thing I wanted to ask about Erwan is because we know Dorian's family's been captive, or like he didn't go call for them. He left them where they were at. His city's down. His city has fallen. So did Erwan? We kind of heard like, oh, there's this new beautiful prince with the blue eyes, or was it blue eyes or just eyes like Manon's? I feel
No,
like
it
I
was
heard it
eyes
mentioned.
like Manon, because
Oh, okay.
she says that Manon mentions that the eyes were like hers,
Okay.
which I'm assuming is like black,
Yeah. Or they were gold. I think they're gold. I think they're
gold, like
gold or
gold
something. Yeah.
flecked or something.
Yeah, but I think they're not gold flecked. If they were black with gold fleck, that was bad. But the fact they're just gold, period, I think was the important piece. I don't remember anymore.
Danny's over there taking notes.
I was just wondering, because I thought, how Erwan was no longer Duke Parrington. I had thought he had I thought he possessed Parrington. I kind of feel like he's like this, is it ethereal? Is that the word? Like Voldemort, where he was just kind of like a spirit in book one. You know what I mean? Like, and he was possessing Parrington. That body is no longer useful to him. And then he took over Dorian's brother's body, is kind of what I was thinking. Because he mentioned he had like gold hair or something. The description about him, right? Am I wrong?
I did not think that it was Dorian's brother.
Oh, it's just something I had tried. I had thought. I don't think. I mean, I don't know if it's.
I just know he's
for
like
sure.
out there switching skins.
Right.
And
Exactly.
apparently there's two other like Vol Kings, Manton
Right.
and
Orcus.
I'm going to say Orca,
Orcus?
but it's not
Orcas?
Orca.
Yeah, there's two other ones. But my point was that if he's switching skins, like, is he really switching skins, like jumping into another body like the Vogue do? Or is he just like changing forms like like Sauron
Like a
does?
shapeshifter?
Yeah, or something. I don't know.
I don't know. The way I read it, I felt like he was literally like
Jumping into somebody's body, right?
throwing on somebody's skin.
Jumping into someone's body? Or no?
I
Not
think so.
that's how I read it too.
Have we encountered any actual shapeshifters?
Lysandra.
Yeah. And you know how you mentioned she was reading about sea dragons?
The sea dragons?
Yeah, I think she's gonna try and switch into one. I think that's why she's reading about them.
I'm a sea dragon.
Yeah, she's reading what was it called? Something creatures of the
Other creatures
of the
creatures
deep
of the
sea
deep.
or something like that. And I was like, And I was like, are sea wyverns and sea dragons the same?
Well, dragons and wyverns aren't the same.
Because of the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So therefore, they're probably not the same.
Different. They're probably not the same.
So dragons and sea dragons are probably in relation. One's in air and one's in water, and wyverns are related, but not inter.
Interesting. Let's talk about Sartak and how I think he's shady as hell.
Oh yes.
Sartak, who rides a Rook, which I'm assuming is the hippogriff of Throne of Glass, because I don't know what it looks like. I have not looked it up. Based on the description, it gave me hippogriff vibes.
They said it was just an eagle though, right? Or was it, did they say eagle like?
I
I
don't
thought it was
know,
just like
but
an
they
eagle.
did mention that that the Rook could beat wyverns.
Or that they wouldn't run away.
Yeah, that they wouldn't be
Right. They wouldn't run.
scared
Right.
of like a wyvern. Paya paya. So they're like, nah, we're good.
I don't know. The whole what's the community called? The Kagan or the
The
Kagan or
Rooks
Kagan.
are large eagle-like birds with golden feathers. They have the strength to carry off cattle and horses.
do you have a picture that we can see?
I'm looking.
Oh. But what is it? Is it the Kagan, the Kagan,
The Kagan.
the
The
Kagan?
Kaganate.
Yeah, like their whole place is a little sketchy, right? Like I'm not really trusting. Like I want to trust the healer, the high healer, the person in charge, but I'm also a little skeptical about her. You know what I mean? Like trying to
Because she
keep
was like, oh, that the sister jumped off. At first I was
right.
like, this is an
And it
inside
was
job and she's
and she said
covering it up.
right, exactly. She's the one that confirmed that she had jumped, right? But you're right. I don't trust Sartak. I don't trust like I almost want to say I trust Caution. What's his name?
Yeah.
But I don't really trust
Caution.
any of the siblings. I don't even know if I trust the king who's there. It's just all like the whole town is shady.
There's another one in a chapter where Nezrin talks about how Sartak's neck is like covered. And I'm
You
like, is
mentioned
he wearing a collar?
I had not caught that detail, and for that,
Huh?
for me, it makes me more confident that he's the traitor.
So initially when I saw the pictures of the Rook, I was like, oh, it's Fred from Fantastic Beasts.
Frank.
Frank.
Frank,
It's
yes.
been a while. But in fact, it is almost exactly like a hippogriff.
I can't see. You got to move it over a little
Oh,
bit.
they have a really long tail.
Okay.
Yeah, remember, this is an artist rendering, so I've seen some without tails. Like, this feels more feathers, like eagle tail feathers versus an actual tail.
Yeah. All right. See, I was spot on. But when you described it, I thought Frank. When you said like with the gold feathers, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, Frank.
But then there's some that look just straight eagle, but I haven't seen where the reference of all the legs comes from because every like description on the interwebs is just saying like a large eagle.
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I wish there was an artist rendering of the little trinkets that the freaking
Oh, the
what were they?
little folk, or whatever
Yeah,
they
they
call
were
them.
leaving
Yeah.
behind. They
Yeah.
left like a little wyvern, one and made out of like fish scales and tiny bones and sticks. I was like, I want to see that. But nobody sent me a picture of it.
I did see the description of Erewhon, and you're right. His skin was ivory, and he did have gold eyes, twin to Manon's, the eyes of the Volg kings. That was the description. So, eyes are important.
Look, she had a
I just
moment. She
remembered
had a moment.
something.
She was like, can I say it? No.
No, I can't. I
Yeah.
definitely can't say that one.
But let me tell you, on the last book, the episode's going to be like 5 hours long because Danny's going to be able to talk.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I think like we obviously know, I think Manon's going to end up joining Aelin in some form or fashion. Like Dorian even hinting, let us know when you want to change sides or when you do want to help us out or whatever. Like, come talk to us.
What's
So-
Dorian doing right now?
Dorian is trying
Dorian's
to
in
control his
Skulls-
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in Skulls Bay. Yeah. They've all, at this point, I guess we should have recapped, right? What's happened up to now? Aelin, Adian, Lysandra, all of them are in Skulls Bay. Maeve's Fae minions are in Skulls Bay. And
Gabriel and Fenris.
right, they're both there.
So what you're saying is
Um,
we about to fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's like there's a bunch of tension there, and Aylin's like, or Selena revealed to Rolf that that she's both, and she's like, why don't you want to join? Although not that he has many people. That was crazy to learn, is that all his fleet is kind of destroyed too. He doesn't have a lot of people to contribute.
Yeah.
So, and then in Dorian, I mean in Kale's, Nezrin has taken off for the adventure that he promised her. Um, oh, and that's the thing I was trying to grab from your highlights, Paula, was the last attack on Nezrin. If it happened after Sartak had left or just before.
On Nezrin.
I'm sorry, not Nezrin, on Irene.
Oh, on Irene.
Yes.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I can't remember. And I was trying to remember, and I was like, because once you mentioned that Sartak was like your suspect, I was like, he's been my suspect kind of like from the beginning. But Nezrin kind of visited her family. Kale's getting some feeling back in his legs.
Yeah.
I think they're discovering this trauma bonding and trauma sharing is how they're going to heal him. And yeah.
They went to like an orgy party.
Oh yeah,
that was
the
weird.
aphrodisiac smoke or whatever.
Yeah. And then how they were like that basically like if you hook up with your servant, it's okay because they're just trying to better their positions. It's not
They had said
considered
that
cheating.
They had said that from the beginning, though, I think, right? Like even was it Kajja or
Kajda, the one that's
Kajja, the first one, the
like,
one that's helping Kale?
yeah.
Like
But I
she had
didn't
mentioned.
realize that at the beginning when they mentioned it during like the party scene or whatever, then it made sense like why she was being so forward with him. Because at first I was like, girl, what are you doing? What's happening? I thought this book was YA. But yeah, that whole thing, the interactions like between Irene and Kale, which I love. I love Kale. I have, obviously he has
Oh,
his
you
Kale
still
being
do?
Kale moments. Yeah, I mean
Okay.
he's troubled. I don't know. He didn't punch Aelin in the face. He's troubled. I feel like he's working through it, like you said, like the trauma and whatever. But the whole like Irene thing, that when she offered birth control, like after like that night of the party, the aphrodisiac smoke party, that she finds him and Nezrin like together.
Right.
Like in the bed, they're not doing anything. She was like, oh, well, if you want, I can like offer like a tonic. Like, lady, I think you're overstepping. What are you doing?
That's her job. She's a healer. That's her job.
Her job is to prevent pregnancy without being asked?
No, to offer options.
Without being asked? I don't know, girl.
Maybe she was just poking to see if they were actually doing something, because she seems to be like,
no,
that's the thing, is they
obviously
seem to
she's
be
catching
interested.
feelings. Everybody
Right.
catches feelings way too fast.
Right.
Like when Sartak's leaving. Go ahead.
Who do you think is going to permanently catch feelings at this moment?
Lorcan and a lead.
Manon and Dorian.
Yeah. Lysandra and Adian. And Kale and Irene, Nezrin and Sartak. Unless Sartak turns out to be evil and she has to behead him.
Oh. Dun dun dun.
And is Selena just out there on her own?
Oh well,
we could hope.
We hope, yeah. I can hope, but I think she's gonna be with Rowan, obviously. And I'm so like they hinted at in this first chapter that they were mates. Like Dorian talking about how, oh, well, they had mentioned that if the mate dies, like another mate is possible. And even Rowan himself was saying like the things he didn't want to say to himself or confirm it. And Aelin too, I think she mentioned in the little like self monologue that SJM writes. So it's just frustrating because I really didn't want them to be together.
I know.
So that's probably why I don't acknowledge it. I don't know.
I mean, again, I don't want them to be together, but I also don't want him to die.
Yeah, that's true.
That is like, I don't want him to die, but I don't
If
want
the
them
only
together.
Yeah, if the only way he lives is them being together, then I guess. But I swear, and luckily there wasn't a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing in the very first chapter or whatever. Like it's like, oh, oh, I wish we could go behind this tree or something or somewhere, and all the little like tension. I was like, oh my God, is this how the whole book's gonna be? Because I just don't like them together. So I'm so glad it was very like
It
low
was
key.
minimal.
It was minimal. So
He didn't, Danny. He was like, I don't want to read this. It's like Rowan and Alien love
yeah,
fest.
right.
And I was like, actually, it's not. Like once they go separate ways, you're good.
Yeah.
It is a little bit like, like when people are being like super mushy in public, and you're like, that's the feeling it gives you because I can't stand them so much.
I
But
think
I'm
that's
like,
the feeling everybody gets to around him. Didn't SJM describe it? Like when they were together, like even when they got
yeah,
back together in Rolf's cabin, she was like, "Oh, you look great." And she's like, "Oh, she must be a beauty if she keeps you this faithful." And then she's like, "Oh, I missed you." She's like, "Oh, I missed you too." I was like, oh,
yeah, and everybody's like, ugh.
everybody's all like awkward.
But yeah, let me see. I'm
Where
trying
do
to
you
think.
think we're
Oh,
gonna go on this journey?
Mm.
where do we think we're gonna go? Like,
Yeah, well, what's up with Maeve like kind of trying to go to sending her forces to Elway? Is she looking for the lock? Like, and what's the real meaning behind this ring? Because Lorcan even hinted at it in this last chapter. Like, if Aelin even knew what the ring was, she could have coerced Maeve into helping her, right? For the ring. So I don't know. I don't know what Maeve's in. I mean, obviously Maeve is, I think,
I
I don't
think
want
we're
to
gonna
say
end up
evil,
in Rifthold. That's like the
but
meeting
but
ground.
it's destroyed.
But I still feel like that's where we're going. That's my
Hmm.
guess. It's not. It's
Because of
me.
the
That's my
tower or
guess.
something? Well, they still got to,
I
well, what
don't
was
know.
it? There were the three towers, right? There was the Onyx Tower in Rifthold. There was one somewhere in the deserts, right? Or in the wastes. I can't remember now if it was the wastes or the deserts. And I can't remember where the third one was, right? The ones that made that
The
stifled magic.
triangle, the Bermuda
Right.
Triangle.
Exactly. The ones that stifled magic. I think they have to go to the other two towers. You know what I mean?
Like
That's a
destroy the
different
other
book
two.
series.
I don't know if they have to destroy the other two, but I think we have to go there. But what was it, Danny? What'd you say?
I said that's a different book series.
Oh,
Every time
So
you
the
say the
two
wastes,
towers.
I think of Dreamlight Valley.
every
Because
time
it's
she
like
says
a
what?
section in the Rift of Time expansion. One section is called the wastes.
Oh, well, yeah, and then we gotta meet the redhead chick again from the snake. I forget her name. The one that ran away, the one that Aelin let go,
Yeah,
Selena
from Assassin's Blade.
from Assassin's Blade. Well, because we've met the healer, we've ran into the
Oh,
healer again, and oh, that's the other thing I wanted to ask. Do you remember the guy? Was it Ren? The ones when they were fighting for the King's Champion? Who was the one that she warned and left? Was it Ren or was it someone else? Because I couldn't remember the name, and he just disappeared in Throne of Glass, the first book when they're
I
fighting. Was it Ren?
remember.
no, but it's not. It's not Ren.
It wasn't. So who
Ren
is
and
it?
Murtaugh are together, right? They're like
Right?
grandfather
Yes.
and grandson.
Yes. So who was the person? I can't remember their name, and I meant to go back before the pod to go look. Who was the name of the person she let go in Throne of Glass that hinted her about the poisons and everything? And so she hinted at him to like, oh, don't be out alone with what was his name? Kane,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so don't be out alone or whatever. Make sure you get away. And he did. He disappeared. Um, he's got to come back at some point. Um, and I can't remember the girl's name. Was it Astrid? No, that's the
No,
second.
Astrid is the
Is the
witch.
second. Yeah. Um, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're
Paylor.
talking about. The
What was his name?
Paylor. Pallor.
P.A. Paylor. Okay. But you do remember him, right? From Throne. I had forgotten
yeah,
about
yeah, I
him.
remember.
But when you brought up in your highlights, like, oh, we're seeing all these connections from Assassin's Blade, which I love too. I love that we read it where we did. Um, I
Anyone
I
else we're
thought,
still missing?
not that I can remember. Who else did we learn in Assassin's Blade? The
Danny
healer?
obviously knows that we're missing somebody.
Yeah, the healer.
Oh,
Well, do you know the name?
do you think Sam
Sam
is
Smith's
still
still
alive?
alive. I'm gonna hold on to my 5%. I'm gonna hold on to my 5%. I am. I hope so. And I hope if he
Griselda
is,
just finished Assassin's Blade and she sent me a text message that said, Sam, like with like crying faces. And I was like, isn't it horrible that we already knew he was dead? We know he's dead. We read
right.
it again and we're like, oh my God, he's dead.
I'm gonna hold on
Unless
to the
you're Angel, and
5%.
Angel's like, nah, he's still
He's not
alive.
dead. 5% and if he's alive, that Selena and him end up together. Even though it's true, like a lot of people are mentioning
Oof.
up that like she has to marry somebody into like wealth or somebody with like an army to get like people to her cause. Like I think there's some like Game of Thrones truth to that, but I don't know. I hope that's not the case. I hope she doesn't have to resort to that. I hope she ends up happy. But what was Danny, since you pulled up, what was the name of that the red
The
haired,
girl.
yeah.
No, she didn't go to the waste, did she?
She did. That's where she's at. I think so. That's where she's at, like starting her little revolution over
She
there
was the one
too.
that was like her friend, right? But then like betrayed
Yep.
her.
Yep.
That biatch.
She was just doing what she thought was right. Speaking of which, what were the stories in Assassin's Blade? The healer, uh the I forget the
Hansel.
assassins in the Hansel.
Hansel. Hansel is Paula's
Oh,
partner.
that's right.
Ansel. Yeah.
Hansel's
Ansel without an
Ansel.
H. Without an
Ansel.
H.
Without the H.
Okay. Silent H.
Ansel's gonna be like, you guys were talking about me?
Hansel, like the photographer.
So those are the
Anyway.
three then, right?
The three what?
Or we're missing, well, Sam either dead or alive, Ansel and Paylor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have not thought about that guy since that book.
Oh, I didn't. I only thought about him because of
There's
you. You
other
brought up the connections.
characters.
There is.
There's
I don't
other
know.
There's three
characters.
I
whole
can't
stories.
remember.
They didn't revolve around one person.
Yeah, but it was all around
Oh
Sam
no.
and like the twins, or not
No,
the
it was
twins,
five
but
it was five stories, right? It's five
yeah,
stories?
the pirate lord Rolf,
Yes.
Sam, the
The
oh the
healer.
what about the queen? The one about the one that was there in a Darlin with the king, like
In
the
what?
one in a Darlin.
Uh, I
What's
was
it
like,
called?
who's darling?
The wherever the Rifthold,
Otterland.
Otterland.
Like, who's darling? I was like, was there somebody named Darlin and I missed that?
But what's her name? The one who coerced, who conspired with Arabin to coerce Selena into killing someone who was trying to prevent the slave trade information. And she took over because they killed him, and she was in power with the king and ensured slavery would continue. We don't know anything about her, and I can't remember where she's from now.
I can't look it up because I don't have it.
Right? No, but you remember, right? You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we
Danny's
need to
looking
know
it
about
up.
her.
She's our
I'm not
information
looking
person.
it up.
No,
What?
but
What the
she's
hell,
just.
Danny?
But I think she's just making sure you remember the person, right? Like we're missing her. She's evil too.
But
When you learn of this character, you're gonna like go, oh, of course.
Huh.
is it Maeve?
No, we know Maeve. We know Maeve's on her way to Elway. Um.
You'll interact with them soon.
Oh, okay.
Soon. Okay. Then we'll message you and be like,
I forgot about. I'm gonna, likely me knowing with how many names there were introduced in this, like, do tandem read is like I'm gonna look at the name. I was like, I don't remember this person.
They are side character enough that it may not have even registered until
so you think
encounter
you think
them
we
again.
already read about it?
No.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
When did you know when we met this character?
You would know it was an Assassin's Blade. You will know what character I'm talking about when you come across them.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I had a hard time reading Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Like now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because like when you run into people, you're like, oh, awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad we read it where we did because I think some people started with Assassin's Blade. I was like, I don't
I
know
don't
about
like it
that.
as a prequel. Even though it
Yeah,
is a prequel, I think it has a better impact by being third.
yeah.
What else do
Agreed.
we need to discuss about the first half of our tandem read?
Oh, in the first, that Nightfall chapter, they describe Elaine.
Mm,
It's Elena, right?
yeah, like
It
the
is
fight,
Elena.
the
Her
original fight.
magic, her magic is like fire, ice, vines. She has everything.
Mm.
She's the it girl. And I was like, oh, I wonder like why they're bringing, obviously because like Aelin has fire and Dorian has ice, but she had everything. So I don't know. The magic thing always freaks me out a little bit. Not freaks me out, I just can't.
Well, what was it
It's
that
like genetics.
blood ties can't be broken or whatever? Is that the phrase? So
Yes.
we also heard like Manon and Erewhon have twin eyes. Like, is there a reason SJM decided to use twin? I don't know.
Because Dorian has a twin.
I think Manon and Erewhon are twins. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, like, I think they're related in some way, considering the
I
Vogue
did think that it
offspring.
was interesting that they say the like that the eyes were like hers.
Right.
I was like, why are you saying that?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like if they are the same eyes and there's like this like history, like is it just like a like was Erewhon born bad or was he also made bad? Does that make sense? Like because they were like the grandma was trying to make Manon bad.
Nature versus nurture.
Right. That whole idea. I don't know. Or was Erewhon just out for power? Who knows? What I am really excited about is to finally finish and get this idea of like, how does this connect to um uh Akatar?
Makatar.
Yes, because it wasn't in this one, right? You said it was in Crescent City where there's like a little hint. Oh, never mind then. Because I was trying to
We're
think
so
like,
far from that.
Little hint.
yeah, yeah.
A little hint. Why'd you go like this? Is it a lot?
It's more than a little
I think
hint.
I don't know. So far, it's like very interesting. I did not think it would take me this long to finish it.
well, I slowed you down by a week though.
No, it's only 1 week though. It was taking me long anyway. And now I'm starting to get nervous because like the little chapter groupings, they're getting larger. Like there's one, I think it's like 20 chapters. And I was like, oh no, I won't have anything to cross off for several days.
Yeah, I don't know how long I want to read about Kale.
We're about to get into it.
Yeah.
I do like
But
that they
yeah,
keep a lot of the stuff though, kind of very like, you know what I mean, like together,
Yeah.
right? Like if they're
They
talking
don't
about
stop
that,
you in the middle of like something
right?
happening.
Yeah, like the interaction with like the chapters end with like, oh, um, there was Selena Sardathian in Rolf's seat, but the
This
next
is
oh,
chapter
that
is full.
is
semi-resolved.
amazing.
Yeah. So,
All right. Are
do
you
we
guys reading
think?
anything else right now?
Mhm.
No.
I finished the Avatar series in what month was it? In September, I think.
Oh,
Well, I'm missing one. It was the Dawn of Yang Chen or something, and the Roku one. But I started reading Assassin's Apprentice by what's her name? Robin Hobb.
You just like reading about assassins.
Well, you know what? They're more assassin than Selena, not tripping over stuff. Um, but I did the first book. It's hard, and it's I've been doing the audiobook. Um, and they have like an accent, but it's okay. Like I think I have 2 chapters or something left in
mhm.
that book. I'm almost done with it. But I just where I was hearing my audio, but I got to get Libby. I got to get Libby.
You do.
Yeah.
Come on now. Come
Paula,
on.
have you had any in-between books?
I read The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. It's a cute male romance. You can't. It's my jam. And I read the Bridgertons. It was like I didn't realize when I checked it out. I didn't realize that it was like all the second epilogues from the books, which I had already read. But it had like the end of it was like more of like Violet's, like how she grew up and how her and Edmund met, and that is what I wanted it for. So yeah, I read that one too.
Thanks.
That's it. Those were my two. Those were my only two books in September because I still haven't finished this one.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is
So,
wild.
but I'm 41 books in for the
You
year.
think you'll hit 50 by the end of the year?
Absolutely. She will definitely.
50? I don't know.
Well,
No,
you have
because
to
look,
remember we have the tandem read to
Yeah,
finish
this is
we have to
two.
finish the tandem read
and the final book.
and the final book. And that book is big too.
And then we might
You said you're at 41, right? So that'll get you to 44. And then 6 books
I would
away.
need
I think
6 books. I don't know.
yeah, and you're reading like 2 or 3 a month though.
Yeah, but there's only 2 months left.
We may wait until
October,
January to
November.
start. Yeah, we'll have to assess when we want to start Crescent City because they're big ones.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a January project.
Yeah, we may have a pause. And then we also have to decide what we're going to read next.
Yes,
Yes.
I was gonna suggest the Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I really want to get into his series,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I have the book and I just haven't started it because I'm thinking like, well, is that going to be like a next thing? You know what I mean? Like, and I
It
hear
should
like
be. That's a good idea.
and I
We
hear
should
like
drop
that's
it
a
in
really
the
Stina's
good
reading them
table.
right now.
Who's reading them?
Stina just
Stina.
finished the first
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
like I just hear it's so good, and like it popped up on TikTok recently for me. Like this one girl was looking for him and he was in Barnes and Noble
I
signing
saw that.
books, like he was doing that just like as a casual thing, and then somebody
It
else
wasn't
pointed
a
out like
casual thing. He was there for a signing that night, which is why he had all the books off the shelves.
oh, okay, okay,
And
Oh.
he
okay. So
turned down the aisle looking for his book, not realizing he was going to be there. But they had pulled all of his books because of the signing
I
that
see.
evening.
And then there was another TikTok that popped up, and this girl's going off about like, I can't believe I just read this book, and she's holding up Miss Board, and she's like, I was never a reader before, and now I'm like hooked. And she's saying, I have to take care of myself, like I'm trying to get healthy because what if I die and I don't finish the book? I don't finish the series. She's like, I can't live not knowing what happens. And this guy's still writing, and so I wanted to throw that one out there
Oh,
as maybe
he
like a
came
potential
out
next.
after.
So how many books are there now?
In he has a
Yeah.
whole universe, so he has a
Yeah.
bunch.
Let's see what's in the
This guy, this guy writes like he's running out of time.
So this is what happened with Brandon Sanderson. He hadn't written anything, and COVID happened, so no one was like really doing anything. And then he got on a live, and he's like, "I know you guys have been waiting for my next book. Well, during COVID, I wrote 5."
Oh my God.
So he had like 5 books that he had written during COVID. And everyone was expecting him to announce one, and they're like, "Here's a stack."
Here's
So,
You're like, I know you wanted one, but guess what? I did you 5 better.
there are 7
Yeah.
books in the Mistborn series.
But it's not a finished series.
I think
Or it
they
is.
are.
Danny, have you read the Mistborn series or no?
I started the first one, but I don't know enough about them mentally to be like, this is going to be a spoiler. So
Because
this
that would be a good
series,
one. That would be a good to read a series where Danny hasn't read the
Yeah,
book
for
either.
real.
Like
so we
that's
could start with the original trilogy and not commit to all of it.
you can find me at Wizard of Main Street on Instagram and on Twitch at the same, and on Fable at the same. Oh no, on Fable I think I'm Angle Paradox. I can't remember.
Angle, not angel.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
Word,
Angel.
not weird. Paula, where can we find you?
A darling. Sorry. At Unconceivable on Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, but you can also find me at Strictly Kindle on all of those as well. On Fable, I am Strictly Kindle. And obviously here on the lovely Creating Magic podcast, you can find us on Instagram and The Talk.
And every podcast platform.
One day I'm going to remember all of it.
We
I
are
swear.
naturally a podcast.
We are sometimes.
You can also find us at creatingmagicpodcast.com.
Come.
You can find me at Mandrakes and Mischief on Threads and Instagram, Creating Magic Podcast on all the things. You can also now find me on Not the Droids Pod
The droids. Yeah.
on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube, and on podcast platforms soon. So
And until next time,
keep creating.
yay.
I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed, or worse, expelled.